Emily and welcome to episode 4 of the PetiteKnit's knitting podcast. I'm a knitter based in Perth in Western Australia and I hope you're doing super well today. It is a lovely sunny Saturday morning when I'm filming this, and we also have another little friend in the room. We are dog sitting for a little French bulldog this weekend, just for one night. Her mum and dad have gone away, so we volunteered to look after her. She's sitting right here, so you might be able to hear some of her little grunts, and she's so cute. I don't think she's used to being alone, so she is very clingy. Every room that I walk into, she keeps following me, so I didn't want to shut her out and her get a little bit stressed, so we'll see how we go. I think she's quite happy sitting here looking out the window. So let's just get started on the video. I have so many finished objects to share, which I'm really looking forward to talking about. A lot of them are gift knits, which I wasn't planning on doing a lot of gift knitting this year, but it just kind of happened. I was inspired, I found the right yarn and the right project for a person, and I just thought I would make it for them anyway. And we have a couple of works in progress to share as well. So let's get started on talking about my first finished object, which is what I'm wearing. This is the mini mock neck tank by Jessie Maed Designs, and I knit this in Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Artichoke Purple. I had this as a work in progress for the past 2 episodes, and I'm really happy that it is finally off my needles. It was almost finished last episode, but I had some issues with the length. I knit quite a few centimeters past the recommended length in the pattern because I thought I would want it to be a little bit longer to make it more wearable, but when I did the bind off, it just didn't look right. I tried it on and it scrunched up really weirdly, and I just knew I wouldn't wear it like that. So I'm really glad I took the time to measure how much I wanted to take out, rip it back and redo the ribbing and the Italian bind off, and now it looks really, really good if I say so myself. Let me stand up and show you the length. It is really cropped. These are high-waisted jeans and you can see it doesn't even meet the waistband, but so far I'm finding it's still quite wearable. I think it's the crop length in combination with being quite covered up here just balances the look out for me, and I don't feel really exposed because I'm quite covered up here. So overall, I think it's a really nice wearable piece for summer. So I knit this on the recommended 3.5mm needles, and my gauge was okay. It was good for stitches, but my row gauge was a little bit shorter, and I didn't want to go up a needle size and have a really sheer fabric. It is quite see-through. It's still wearable, but I knew if I'd gone up to a 3.75 or bigger, it probably would have been too loose for my liking. So saying that, I knew that my row gauge was short, and I just kept that in mind as I was knitting and kept trying it on and making sure I was happy with the fit. And I think it worked out really well. The armhole depth is actually really comfortable. In the pattern, in a lot of the Instagram and Ravelry posts, it does look really, really deep, so I was pretty confident that it would work out, and I think it did in the end. So you can see that it is definitely much shorter. I think in the pattern it does go maybe down to here, and it covers my bra strap really well. I don't find that I'm pulling it down or up or shuffling around constantly, so I'm glad that that actually ended up working out really well. I think a combination of my row gauge being shorter and the pattern just being designed to be longer meshed up really well, and we ended up with a really nice piece. I didn't make any other modifications. The neckband I ended up going for in between the crew neck and the mock neck size, and I'm quite happy with this one. The crew neck just looked a little bit too short. The ribbing didn't look balanced compared to the ribbing on the body, so I made it a little bit longer, but I wasn't sure if I was going to wear full mock neck, so perhaps for my next version I'll try that look out and see if I enjoy wearing it, because I think this one is nice, but I could see myself wearing something just a little bit higher up as well. So that is my first finished object. It's finally done, and I've worn it out a couple of times, and it's really comfortable. Because it's merino, it's probably better for the evenings this time of year when it's a little bit cooler. During the day, if I'm outside, I think it would be a little bit warm, so I think it's a good time of year to finish this one. So my second finished object is my humongous croissant, or my Sophie shawl. I'm sure you've seen these, they're all over Instagram, and it's for such a good reason. It's just such a nice piece to make. It's so satisfying to have this really squishy garter especially the Sophie scarf. I haven't knit that one, but I see why people get hooked on that pattern and just make so many different versions in their leftover yarn. I knit this in Bendigo Woollen Mills Luxury 8-ply held double in the colour Slate, which is this really, really beautiful flat grey colour. It's not mild or anything, it's just a very nice neutral, deeper grey, and I think it would be so wearable and easy to pair with all of my other sweaters or other winter garments. So I used the recommended 5mm needles. My gauge was a little bit bigger than the pattern recommends. I didn't swatch for this because I didn't mind if it ended up being a little bit too big or small. I had plenty of yarn to use, and I think the fabric turned out really nicely. It's quite a dense fabric. It's not letting too much light through, so I think it will be a really wearable piece for winter to keep me nice and warm. It ended up being quite a long scarf. I don't think I can show the whole thing in one. I had 3 balls of this yarn left, and they're very generously sized. They're 200 grams each. So I was trying to use up as much of the 2 balls that I could. I could have used the 3rd one as well and probably made it even bigger, but I wasn't sure how practical that would be. So my aim was to use up 2 of the balls, and I weighed what I had at the start. I knit and increased until I'd used half and then started the decreasing. And I ended up actually with the same stitch count as the small size in the pattern, but as my gauge was a bit bigger, it ended up kind of measuring the same as in between the medium and the large, I believe. So I have my notes here, and I wrote down the measurements before and after blocking. I was just curious to see how much extra length I would gain from blocking, especially in this really nice, soft, squishy superwash in the garter stitch. So before blocking, the total width in this widest part was 29 centimeters, and the total length from tip to tip was 182 centimeters. And after blocking, I stretched it out to the absolute maximum that it would go, and the width was still 29 centimeters, which I was a bit surprised about, but the length was 241 centimeters. So that's about 60 centimeters of length that I gained from blocking, and I'm really happy that I did. When I have it wrapped around, I can basically wrap it around twice and still have the tails hanging down. And I think this will be really nice and cozy when it's really, really cold. I can have it lifted up a little bit to cover my face, or if it's not too cold and I just want something around my neck, I can have it wrapped around once, and then I've seen people like knot the tails, and I think that looks really cute. I've seen PetiteKnit do that on her Instagram, so who doesn't want to look like PetiteKnit sometimes, hey? It was such an enjoyable knit. I don't know if I would make another shawl because I'm not sure how many of these I really need in my wardrobe, and I don't think I have more scraps that I would want to make into these for gifts or anything. But now that I have this pattern, I'm not going to buy the Sophie scarf pattern as well. I know that some people don't mind doing that, but to me they're basically the same pattern, but you get to a different stitch count. I'm not sure if that's 100% true. I don't know if the increase rate is different, but now that I have the pattern, I feel like I can easily make the smaller scarf version if I wanted to use up some smaller scraps, and just do the same thing, measure my yarn and then knit till I've used up half and then start the decreases. I think they would make really great gifts. This one did take me quite some time. It took me about a month, I think, from start to finish, and I was knitting on other things as well. I wasn't prioritizing this one. But it is still a lot of knitting, especially if you're knitting maybe one of the larger sizes. I only got to the stitch count for the small, so it did take me a good amount of time. I'm not sure if I would classify that as good gift knitting, but definitely the smaller Sophie scarf, I can see myself making that for my mum perhaps, or some of my friends. I think they look really cute as the headbands as well. So we'll see, maybe I'll make some of those in the future. So that's everything I have to share on my Sophie shawl. Let's jump onto my next finished object. And this one is a gift knit, and if you're my mum, you better stop watching. I don't think she watches these videos, but this is a heads up just in case. But I have knit her a pair of DK weight vanilla socks. This is the free pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady, and this is the first time that I've knit one of her patterns, and I really enjoy doing it. It was very easy to follow, although they are just a basic vanilla sock, which I have knit before, so it wasn't anything too different to what I'm used to. And I knit these in a strand of fingering held with a strand of mohair, and oh my gosh, they are so soft. They are really, really luxurious feeling. I don't think there's a better gift than a pair of mohair socks. So I'll talk about the yarn as well. The purple fingering weight is West Yorkshire Spinners Exquisite 4-ply in the colour Penny Royal. My mum's name is Penny and I think she deserves to be treated like a royal, so that was the reason why I had this yarn in the first place, was to knit her a pair of stone socks from the 52 weeks of socks. But I had some leftovers and it was just enough to make a pair of DK weight socks. So I held the purple yarn with a strand of Drops Kid Silk mohair in a really light pink colour, and you can see the strand of silk is quite a bit lighter, so it gives a really, really pretty mild effect. And then the contrast cuff and toe are in a strand of Drops Kid Silk as well in white. And the main yarn is the Along Avec Anna fingering weight yarn. And that one is not a sock yarn, but I think being held with the silk mohair will just give it a little bit of extra sturdiness that it needs for the toe. As these are DK weight, I'm assuming that they won't be worn in shoes and they'll probably more likely just be worn as slippers around the house, so I have a feeling they'll be okay. Worst case scenario, I can always rip back the toe and knit it up in a sock yarn. It wouldn't be too much extra work. So these knit up so quickly. I think I made both of them in 2 days last weekend. I haven't knit DK weight socks before and I see why people get hooked on them. They are so good for using up scraps, and obviously because they knit up so quickly, they make a really, really great gift. So these will be for my mum's birthday, which is at the end of the year, and I really hope she likes them, but then if she doesn't, I kind of want to keep them for myself. I am a little bit nervous the mohair might be a little bit irritating for her. I tried them on myself and wore them around for a few minutes and I didn't notice any prickliness around my feet or my ankles. They aren't super long. I did take out no I didn't. I kept the same leg length as in the pattern, so they aren't really that tall. I think we'll be okay. Worst case scenario, she doesn't wear them and she can give them back to me or pass them on to someone else. So I did record the amount of yarn that I used for all 4 of the yarns in these socks, just so I would know in the future if I wanted to make more DK socks, I could weigh the yarn and just see if I would be able to get the same or slightly longer leg, or I might make shorties next time. So the main colour, the purple, the fingering weight, I used about 32 grams and the mohair used about 14 grams. Oh, I made the smallest size in the pattern as well, just so I could save a little bit on yarn. I think they might be a little bit tight on my mum, but I can always stretch them out and block them again if they are. So anyways, the contrast colour, the white, only used about 8 grams of the fingering and 3 grams of the mohair. So I think doing the contrast toe and cuff is a really good way to use up tiny scraps of mohair or any lace weight that you have lying around, which I know I do. I do have quite a lot of mohair scraps. I knit the Andy sweater for my sister last Christmas or the one before, and I bought enough yarn with the intention of making a matching one for myself. But honestly, by the time I got to the end of that first version, I was so sick of knitting bobbles in mohair. It's held with it's made with 2 strands of mohair held together, and it's just a nightmare, especially because I was working on it at Christmas and it was hot and sticky. You can imagine that was not a fun time. I was really pleased with the finished object, but I just couldn't face making a second one, and at the end of the day, I don't really like wearing mohair against skin, especially around here, so I didn't think I would wear it. Point being is that I have quite a lot of mohair scraps sitting around from that sweater, and it's really nice that I can start using them up in projects like these, especially as gifts for really knit-worthy people. So we have not only 1 pair of socks, but a second pair of finished socks that are also a gift, and these ones are for my granddad. I've shown these a few times. They've been a whip for a while. They took a really long time actually, I think because they're so much bigger than the socks I'm used to knitting. The socks that I usually knit for myself are 56 stitches, and I don't usually like a really long leg, and I don't have really long feet, so they go by much quicker. But for some reason, these just took forever, especially the second sock. It was a bit of a push to get it done, but I'm quite happy with how they've turned out. These are the Broken Record Broken Rib Socks by Alex Parker Mooney, which is a free pattern that I found on Ravelry. And it was my first time knitting broken rib, and I really like how it looks. The effect it gives is really, really pretty, and I think it really shows off the color of the yarn. So the yarn I use for these is Circus Tonic Handmade Bamboo Ching Sock in the color Spangled Drongo. And I've shown this already. It's a really, really nice grey, blue color with some light and dark variation. I think it was a really nice masculine color. I would definitely still wear this color myself, but I just thought of my granddad when I saw it. I think this will really suit him, these really deep kind of dull colors, but there's still quite a lot of depth in them. When I was choosing a pattern, I was really mindful of making sure that it didn't look too busy. Even though there's quite a subtle variation in this yarn, it's definitely not quite a tonal, but not a variegated yarn at all. I just wanted the design of the sock to complement the colors of the yarn and not take away from the beautiful look of the hand-dyed yarn. And I think I did that quite well with the broken rib. It gives quite a bit of stretch, so I'm not too worried about the fit. If there's any fit issues, they have a little bit of give, so they can stretch over a wider foot if need be, but these are fairly big, so I have a feeling we should be okay on that. But yes, you can still see all of the lovely colors. So these are all washed and blocked and ready to give to my granddad, and I hope they fit. I think they'll be okay. I know he'll really like them, so I'm excited to be able to gift these ones now. So I have one more finished object to share, which is also a gift, and this is a really, really cute one. It's for my boyfriend for Christmas. We decided not to buy each other gifts because we have a holiday plan, but I did see this on Pinterest, I think, and I just knew that I had to make it for him. And it used some scrap yarn, so I didn't actually have to buy any extra materials for this project. But anyway, we have made this really, really sweet little penguin. Penguins are his favorite animal, so as soon as I saw this, I knew that he had to have one. I don't know what he's going to do with him. I think he'll just have him sitting on his desk, to be quite honest, but he has a little jumper and he's just so sweet. Let me take the jumper off so I can show him off a little bit better. So I did mention the pattern is by Claire Garland, or Dot Pebbles. You have probably seen those frog reels and posts on Instagram and TikTok that went viral in the last year or two. The same designer has made this pattern and I absolutely love it. So the main color is knit in some alpaca wool silk blend, and I think the alpaca just gives it a really nice fuzzy halo. And then I also had these safety eyes just sitting around in my stash as well, so I didn't actually have to buy anything. Oh, and the stuffing is polyfill. I didn't use yarn scraps because I have a whole humongous bag of polyfill sitting that needs to get used. I used to knit and crochet a lot of like little stuffies a while ago when I first got into, mainly when I was into crochet, so I have that from those days. And yeah, I think it was actually a good choice because you could definitely see if there was yarn scraps in there that were a different color, you would definitely be able to see them. So I think the white polyfill was actually quite a good choice for this one. So there's not really much to say on this guy. He's just really cute and I'm excited to gift him. He is seamed but kind of knit all in one piece. It was a really fun process. I haven't knit things like this in a really long time, so I found it quite satisfying. It was nice to change it up a little bit, practice my mattress stitch, which honestly doesn't look that good. I did try really hard to make it look neat, but yeah, you can definitely see his seam in there. But when he's wearing his little jumper, you can't really tell. I'll quickly talk about the jumper as well. As you can see, this is made in the leftovers from my socks that I made. I wasn't planning on using it for this little guy, but I just think the colors went really nicely together and it was good to get the scraps out of my stash. So you can buy a pattern that is from Claire Garland that goes with all of the stuffies that she designs, but I'd already purchased this pattern. The sweater wasn't very expensive. I think it was only going to be a few dollars, but I actually already had this pattern in my library from a teddy bear I made for one of my nephews a few years ago, and I just thought I would give it a go and see if it fits, and it does fit him quite well actually. The sleeves ended up being a little bit longer, but I think they look really cute cuffed up like that, and you have a rolled hem, so I think it looks really cute. And then there's even a little button on the back. It's just so cute, isn't it? It's just a really fun project that was a little bit of a change of pace from the other whips that I had going, and it was nice to get some little scraps out of my stash. Look, they're putting his little jumper on and his wings. So yeah, it was good to have a change of pace and nice to be knitting something for someone else as well. He's just the cutest little guy. I didn't put any wire or anything in him. The pattern suggests that you can to make him posable. I didn't have any on hand, and I wasn't about to buy some just for this project and then not know what to do with the rest. And I think he looks quite good. He sits up pretty well on his own, so I don't think he really needs it. But yes, this is a little penguin. If you have any name suggestions, let me know, but so far he's just called Penguin. So that wraps up my finished objects. Let's move on to my works in progress. So the first work in progress is almost done, and that is this cushion cover. It doesn't really look like a cushion cover right now. I know it's not really turned out exactly what I had in mind. So as you can see, it's knit in 5 different colors, and this is a mini skein set from Manos Uruguay. Is a Fino yarn, which is a single ply wool and silk blend. I think I have the card here. So it is a 70% merino and 30% silk yarn, and we have these really beautiful blues and greens with a couple of neutrals thrown in there as well. I just freehand this pattern. I really like the look of the linen stitch, especially the 2-color linen stitch looks, I think, really nice. It kind of blends the colors together quite well, and it was really fun to do, but it was such a slog. It was so slow going. I kind of knew that when I went into it that it was going to take a while, and especially the beginning, because I knit this on magic loop. Once I got to about here and I could swap to just knitting in the round, it did go by a lot quicker, but I hate working magic loop, and I'm not really sure why I thought I would want to do that to myself. So I started off with a Judy's Magic cast on, knit in magic loop until I could start knitting on shorter circulars in the round, and the rest went by pretty quickly. I have to say, I was about here at the start of the week, and then something in me just motivated myself to want to get this one finished. So I didn't gauge swatch. I think that was honestly the biggest mistake in this. If I'd just taken the time to swatch and work out exactly the measurements that I wanted this to be, we would have been okay. I also wanted to maximize my yarn usage, which still didn't end up working. We've just got now a really small cushion, even though it's got the same front and back. It's just tiny. I think I probably couldn't have gone much wider knitting magic loop, so if I wanted it to be bigger, I think the only way I could have done that is to knit it flat and then sewn it to a piece of fabric as a backing. But that's okay. I'm still glad to be sharing this and talking this through a little bit. Sometimes I think if I can talk through some projects, I can really think about what I want to do and get my thoughts together really. We do have quite a lot of yarn left, except for the blue, which is a little bit annoying. This is all we have left on the blue, and then the rest, we have quite a bit left. I haven't weighed the leftovers, to be honest, so I'm not exactly sure, but I knew the blue was the lightest skein when I started, so that's why I started with the blue, to make sure that if I had enough of that one, I would have enough of the rest. I think my plan is to make a pillow insert. If I just sew 2 pieces of fabric together, put some polyfill in there, and finally actually use up more of that polyfill, and have a removable insert, that would be a little bit better. I could just put stuffing straight in this, but I'm just worried it will come through and it won't look quite as nice, and might lose its shape a little bit more. So I think I'm going to make an insert and then put it in here, and hopefully have this stretched out quite a lot so I can gain a little bit of extra width or length from it, and then mattress seam the top closed, or probably just whip stitch it. I'll see what I feel like doing. I'm really glad I made this. It was a fun experience to freehand a pattern. I usually always follow a pattern, even if I just find a really simple free pattern on Ravelry. I'd rather follow that and be sure that I'm going to get somewhere that I'm happy with. But this was still a really fun experience. It was quite easy to do. It just took a really long time, and it's done now in terms of the knitting. It might look quite nice in here with these blue pillows. Maybe this will look quite cute here. Yeah, maybe I'll put it in here, and then this is just our guest bedroom, so it's not something that I'm going to see every day, to be honest. In terms of the leftover yarn, this was what I was hoping to avoid by making the back and the front both knitted, but yeah, let's have a think about what we want to do. I did see Penrose Knits has launched her Stella quilt cushion cover, and that is designed to use up little bits of scraps that can be fingering weight held double. I'll have to weigh these and then see if I'd have enough to make something like that. I have a feeling I would need to have a main colour to hold with all of these leftovers to get the yarn going far enough. So I might have a look at that one. I think that's a really, really cute pattern. Maybe these will finally become a cushion that I actually like, but either way, it was good to have this process, and now I've definitely taken away a few things about it. Just do the gauge swatch. I could have saved myself so much time and effort if I just done the gauge swatch and figured the math out properly before I started. So that's kind of in between a finished object and work in progress. In terms of the knitting, that's all done. I just have to take the time to make the insert and then seam it shut, which I should have time to do that today. I think the longer I leave it, the less likely I am to finish it. So I should really get onto that today and just get it finished and then have the final piece. So that one is the only project at the moment that I'm not really that happy with. The rest of my projects I think are all going really well and are something that I'm just enjoying working on. We only have 3 active whips at the moment. I don't really count the cushion cover as a whip anymore, seeing as it's off the needles, and I'll hopefully just finish that off today anyway. So in terms of my first proper work in progress, we have yet another pair of socks. I'm not a huge sock knitter, so this is a very sock heavy podcast episode, but I won't talk too much about these. They are pretty much identical to these other socks that I've made. They're the same pattern, which is the Broken Record, Broken Rib sock by Alex Parker Mooney. They're also knit in the same yarn base, which is the Circus Tonic Handmade Bamboo Ching sock, and this color is Vanilla Lily. So you might have guessed, and if you watched my previous episodes, you know that these are a gift for my grandma to go with the ones for my granddad. And I saw these colors and I just knew that they were made for her. They are absolutely beautiful. It's an undyed base with lots of speckles and some variation in pinks and purples and some mauves as well. And I really, really think the broken rib just makes the colors shine without distracting from what's going on in the pattern. I think it's a really good combination. I'm really glad that I've stuck with this pattern for these as well. I was just worried that if I had something too busy like a lace or cables or something, it would look a bit funny. I'm not a fan of that, to be honest. I think the rib sock breaks it up a little bit so you don't get too much pulling. But like I said, I also wanted them to be quite flexible in the wear because I'm not 100% sure on their foot or their leg size. So I'm quite happy that these have a little bit more give, but you can still really see the colors. And I just think they're so beautiful. We're sticking with the slip stitch heel flap, and I just picked up the stitches and I'm ready to start the gusset decreases. So this is the first sock. I don't think it will take me too much time. It'll be much quicker than the humongous socks that I made for my granddad. Those were the 72 stitch size and these are 64 stitches and also on 2.25 millimeter needles. So these will probably be done in the next couple of weeks. We have a bit of time before they need to be ready, but it's good to get them going. So there's not really much else to say on these. They're pretty much identical to the other socks that I'd made, but obviously in a different color. And I think it'll be really cute that they have matching socks in different colors. I'm really enjoying working on these and they're just, yeah, really nice pattern to knit. So we will hopefully finish those in the next couple of weeks. My next work in progress is a brand new cast on, and I only started this morning and we are already basically finished on the first of the pair. And no, it's not another pair of socks, it's actually a pair of fingerless mittens. This is the Essential Fingerless Mittens pattern by Purl Soho. It's a free pattern on their website that also comes with a hat pattern and a mittens pattern, but I think I'll only make the fingerless gloves. I had an idea of making the penny gloves, but I wasn't sure if I was actually willing to pay for that pattern. I don't make accessories or wear accessories a huge amount. It just doesn't really call for it in my climate, but as I'm going away at the end of the year to somewhere cold, I thought that I would actually need these, and I wanted to use up some scraps in my stash as well. So the yarn is 2 strands held together. The main strand is Heirloom Cozy Comfort in the maroon colour, which is this really nice light beige colour, and I'm holding it with a strand of Drops Kid Silk in the colour beige. Both of these I had just odds and ends lying around from sweaters that I really enjoy, and I just held these 2 together. I think they gave a really nice colour. They're really soft. I don't find mohair is itchy at all on my wrist. They're quite tight. I think once they're on, they're okay. I'm working these on DPN, so it's a little bit tricky to show, but I think they're quite nice. We're not too far off from finishing the hand. I think I'll finish them off about here and then do the thumb, and then we just have one more to go. So I honestly think these will work up really quickly this weekend. I'm knitting these on 3.25mm needles. The pattern calls for a 4mm, but I'm not sure why I didn't use 4mm needles. I think I have 4mm DPNs, but saying that, they fit really well. The fabric is nice and dense, and it will be really nice and warm. They're not too hard to get over my hands, so I think I made a good choice there. I did make one small modification to the cuff. It has a rolled hem in the pattern, but like I said, I kind of was inspired more by the penny gloves, so I did just one round of purl stitches and then went straight into the stockinette, and then I think I'll do the same at the top of the hand and on the thumb, just finish it off with a purl round and then bind off purlwise. I think that will work out really well. So I'm really enjoying working on these. I see why people get really hooked on making accessories. It's really nice to get some odds and ends out of my stash, and if I don't end up wearing them, I'll definitely find someone who will. Perhaps if I have more accessories in my wardrobe, I will reach for them more often. So I'm really enjoying working on these. I don't really have much else to say. It's just a free pattern. I'm following the adult small size, and exactly, I don't think I've made any other changes except for the purl bump at the start. I just really love the colors on these. I think the slightly darker kid silk gives a really nice depth of color. The main strand is not variegated at all. It's a very neutral beige color. So I think held together, it gives such a good fabric. And yeah, the mohair is just look really luxurious, I think, especially in something like this. It is a bit of a chunkier gauge. I think it's about 18 stitches per 10 centimeters. So it doesn't look as delicate as the penny gloves, but not a problem at all. I'm using up what I have, and that just means that they work up extra quickly. We have one more finished object, and that is my biggest whip at the moment and my only sweater project, and this is the Arrow sweater by PetiteKnit. I'm so happy with how this is going so far. I'm knitting this in Drops Lima in the color beige, I think. It's this really beautiful mid-toned brown color. I don't know, I really like the color. So I bought the yarn initially to make a different sweater. I was going to knit the Dear Duomo sweater by Seunghi Knits. I've knit one of them in a grey colour in the same yarn, and I bought this yarn knowing that I really enjoy making that, and I tried to cast it on a couple of times, and for some reason my gauge wasn't working out. It was really loose in stockinette and really tight in the ribbing. It's knit bottom up, so I just didn't know what was going on. I tried a couple of times and I just thought, this is not feeling quite right. I think I need to use the yarn for something else. So I did mention in my last episode, the Arrow sweater is not one of PetiteKnit's size inclusive patterns. It is one of the older patterns that hasn't been updated, which is such a shame because I think it's such a beautiful design, especially the saddle shoulder, because they're so popular at the moment. It's a shame that it hasn't been updated. So in my previous episode, I did leave a link to a couple of other more size inclusive saddle shoulder patterns, and I'll leave them here as well. So that being said, I have this pattern in my library from before I was really thinking about size inclusivity and size range in patterns, and I just went for it with this yarn. Obviously I'm not doing the stripes, I'm just doing it all in one solid color, but I think it still looks really, really nice. I'll show off the saddle shoulder because I love the look of it. I think it's really, really effective, and I love how it looks on me as well. I think I'm starting to realize that maybe raglans maybe not for me. I don't like the way that they cut off this part of my body. They are really fun to knit and really satisfying, and I'll probably still keep knitting them. But in terms of wearability, I think drop shoulders or saddle shoulders or things that have less going on around this area just suit me a little bit more. There's something that I'm starting to learn about myself, I think. Oh, it looks like the sweater's already done from this angle. You can't even tell that the body's not finished. And I'm really liking how it looks so far. So as you can see, we have finished the yoke. We have both sleeves and the neckband is on, and we're not too far away from the body. We're quite close to being able to start the ribbing on this. I think a few more centimeters and then the ribbing to maybe finish about here on my hip bones. So we have a little bit of length left to go on the body, and then we'll be done. I'll talk through some of the things that I'm a little bit worried about and I'm hoping blocking will fix. I know this yarn does block out really nicely. The stitches even out really, really well. They look a little bit bumpy in some areas, especially I think on the sleeve. It's not too bad. I think even if it doesn't, you can still get away with wearing this and you can't even tell that it's a hand knit sweater. So aside from evening out the stitches, I think you might be able to see some of the issues up here. I think it's just part of the nature of a saddle shoulder is that there's just some like bumpiness around here. It doesn't sit completely flat. I'm not sure if it's the way that I was increasing, or maybe it's the neckline, or just the nature of the pattern, and it will be okay when it's blocked. I could have blocked it by now just to check, but I thought I'm not going back to fix it anyway, so we may as well just keep going and hope that it fits in the end. So yeah, I think hopefully this will even itself out. The other thing is the neckline. The shape of it is just a bit strange. It's very oval, it's not completely round. I think I would prefer it to be a bit more round. I just feel like it drops down quite low. Before I picked up the stitches, they looked like there were so many like stitches to pick up, and the neck hole looked really, really big. So I have a feeling that because the neck hole was so big and there's a lot of fabric like cinched in with the ribbing, that's maybe contributing a little bit to the weird shape and a little bit of bunching around here. The other thing is this folded neckline is quite bulky, and I don't know how I feel about this pearl bump edge here. It's on a lot of PetiteKnit's designs. I think she was the first person I saw doing it, but probably not the original person to be doing this in her designs. But yeah, since the beginning I've not been convinced that I like it. I thought I would just give it a go on this pattern, seeing as it was integrated into the design, and it's definitely growing on me. I'm just not a fan of these folded neck bands, I don't think. They just look a little bit too bulky, but yeah, we'll see. It is just sewn down, so I can easily undo it and then rip back and just do an Italian bind off if I block it and decide that it's really not going to look good for me. So it's an easy fix, but I'm just a bit unsure on how I feel about this at the moment. The other thing is the length of the sleeves. They are a little bit short. I prefer my sleeves to kind of like end here, and I like being able to pull them over my hand. I think blocking should fix this. I followed the decrease rate and everything as written in the pattern, and I usually find that the sleeve length in PetiteKnit patterns is fine for me. So I'm just hoping that blocking will lengthen the sleeves out just that a little bit, maybe just a few centimeters, so it can reach the end of my wrist. Of course, I can always go back and add some length in. It's not a problem. I might even lengthen the ribbing a little bit because I think it does look a little bit short. You can see I'm a little bit red now. It's way too hot to be wearing sweaters, so I took it off, but I think you can see from the try on that it's a little bit hit and miss. I'm thinking blocking will fix it. You can definitely see the neckline is just really low, and on the back you can see it kind of like wrinkles out a little bit. That could be due to the way that I've sewn the neckband down. We're just gonna have to block it and see what happens. The construction was so much fun. I would definitely be making more drop shoulder designs or contiguous or set-in sleeves. I think they look really nice on me, and for me they're really engaging to knit as well. So this one, you do the saddle shoulder. It's not a super wide saddle. I think the Ozetta pattern is quite a bit wider, and I've seen some other more popular designs recently that have like a really wide saddle. So this one is pretty small in comparison. And then we increase out for the stitches, and then in the underarm you do some rapid raglan increases to kind of have a bit of extra fabric under the arm. And there's definitely some bunching on the raglan as well, definitely on the back, you can see that. So I think blocking will fix that. It's not too hard. If I just pull on it a little bit, it does flatten out quite easily. If I hadn't worked with this yarn before, I'd probably be a little bit more nervous, but I know with the alpaca content, it does relax and open up quite well, and it ends up being quite drapey. So I have high hopes for this one. That is everything that I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for listening. I'm really enjoying where I'm going with my knitting at the moment. I'm really excited for the sweater to be finished and get that blocked so I can stop worrying about all of the potential fit issues that we're having. So in terms of that, I'm really excited to get some things finished, and I have a few fun things in the works as well, but we'll have to see how we go. I have some yarn that's coming as well. It should be here next week or potentially the week after. So we have some exciting projects in the works as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or evening, and take care of yourself. See you later. Bye.